Welcome back to CBY Spotlight, the podcast where Rabbi Weinberger and I put the spotlight on one of our members in Congregation B'nai Yeshurun. And tonight we are putting the spotlight on Elana Silber. Elana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, our first question is always, have you ever been on a podcast before?
I have been on a few podcasts. One that I'm probably most proud of was Inspiration for the Nation. That was a really good one. I was on it actually together with the founder of Sharsheret's son, Shlomo Mursky, and we did it as a tag team, and it reached a lot of people. And
what is Inspiration for the Nation?
It highlights inspiring causes that are helping the Jewish community and inspiring people, and it reaches people of all backgrounds within the Jewish community, even beyond the Jewish community, and he has a really high viewership or lots of subscribers.
Not as high as CBY Spotlight.
You guys are close.
He asked you about CBY Spotlight when you were on.
He asked if it was going to be a conflict. He didn't want to take it. Yeah, it's all good.
And you were there in your capacity in your work for Sharsheret, which we'll get into.
Yes.
But okay, great. But before we get into any Sharsheret stuff, can you just give us an introduction to you and your family?
Yeah, so my name's Elana Silber. I'm married to Jonathan Silber. We live in Teaneck. We've been here for about 26 years. We live on Maitland, really close to the shul. Picked this shul because when we moved here, this was the shul that we didn't even actually know about any other shuls at the time, and it was such a good location for our house, and everyone we knew went to B'nai Yeshurun. I actually became a member 3 years before we actually moved to Teaneck because it had a reputation that this was the best nursery school in the county. So if you wanted to get a spot in this school, you had to become a member. You had to come wait online for 2 to 3 hours. So I woke up at 5 in the morning. I lived in Forest Hills. I became a member, drove here, waited for 2 hours to get my oldest daughter into the nursery school. I was accepted into the nursery school, and then my husband found out that we were being relocated to London. So everybody called me for my spot in B'nai Yeshurun, and I said, I'm not giving up the spot until I'm on the plane, because where else am I going to send my 2-year-old to school? So the second we got on the plane to go to London to move our family, that's when I called B'nai Yeshurun, and I said, okay, you can release the spot.
And there was a scramble for that spot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was a big lottery, but it was so we actually didn't live here for another over 2 years, but we were members from that time.
Wow. And you were in London for a couple of years?
We lived in London for a couple of years. My husband was working for Bankers Trust at the time in foreign currencies, and they wanted him to open some kind of foreign currency desk there. And so we moved. I had 2 daughters, and I was pregnant with my third, and I gave birth there. And we really immersed ourselves in the Jewish community. We lived in Hendon, and my girls went to the Hasmonean school.
Wow.
And it was a really great experience.
Was there ever a thought to stay, or no?
No, not long term, but I could have stayed a few years longer. I think the goal was to move to Israel. They were halfway there. That's how Jonathan got me to go without any questions. We just didn't.
But instead, you just came back.
Yeah. I think professional opportunity, we're stronger here, so we ended up here. But
and did your kids end up with a British accent? Or
they
no?
did. At the time, they very much wanted to be part. And then when we were on the airplane back, they said, "We're switching off. We're now going to be Americans when we land," and they got rid of that.
They made like a conscious decision.
Yes, they did not want to be different, but
wow.
We loved it, and it's a very nice community, no language barrier, a lot of kosher food, shuls, schools, mikvah, so it was a really good experience. We met interesting people that we're still friendly with till today. We traveled to Israel a few times because it's not so far and not as expensive. It was really a good experience, and it was before the internet, so I'm dating myself. So it was really an opportunity for us as a family to do everything together. And there was no football on Sundays because there was no internet.
Football is something
football,
different.
yeah.
We had what's it called?
Soccer. Cricket.
Cricket. Right. Yeah. But we did things as family on Sunday. It was really a very, very nice experience.
Nice.
Where did you and Jonathan meet? How did you guys meet?
It comes back to B'nai Yeshurun. We can always tie it back to B'nai Yeshurun.
Everything comes back to B'nai Yeshurun.
I was a freshman in Stern College, and he was a sophomore at YU. And we had a mutual friend in common, and who's a member of B'nai Yeshurun, Chaim Weichner. And he suggested that we go out, and we did. We actually double dated with Chaim, not with his current wife, but I set him up with someone else. Didn't work out. But we went out that night. It was November 21st, 1985, and we never broke up since. So that's
First
how we met.
date. You remember
First
the date
date,
of your
blind
first
date.
date?
Rena probably does.
Okay, yeah, I can see the same about you. Probably. That's great. Okay, so you are for anyone who doesn't know, the CEO of Sharsheret. So can you tell us a little bit about Sharsheret, what it does, the services it provides, and how you became involved?
So Sharsheret is the Hebrew word for chain, and it is the breast and ovarian cancer organization for the Jewish community and beyond. And Sharsheret basically does four things. We provide genetic and mental health counseling, we provide emotional support, financial assistance, and life-saving education. Within those four categories, there's a lot more that we're doing, but basically that's what we do, support and education for women and men and families at risk or diagnosed with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So you can think of it, anything that your doctors don't offer, Sharsheret can manage for you. So that's where Sharsheret means, and that's what we do. But even the way I got involved with Sharsheret takes us back to B'nai Yeshurun, which is so interesting.
Of course.
I have, it's not even planned. It's the total, complete truth. I actually came and learned about the organization for the first time because the founder, Ruchi Sharet, who was a Teaneck member, she was speaking in the shul. And a friend of mine said, we have to go to shul and listen to this woman speak about this new organization. And I came, and we were in the B'nai Yeshurun social hall, and she spoke, and she was this compelling speaker, and she talked about this issue that is plaguing the Jewish community. We are hard hit by breast cancer. At the time, it was just a breast cancer organization, and it's helping Jewish women and Jewish families. This is not just a young Jewish woman's issue. This is a Jewish community issue, and as a young Jewish woman, I felt compelled to get involved, and I started as a volunteer. And a few months later, she asked me if I wanted to come on professionally because I have an MBA in healthcare, I have good connections in the Jewish community. And so I started as a volunteer and then came on as a professional, and that was 20 years ago, but it started here at B'nai Yeshurun.
So practically, Rahman al someone who is in the position to need assistance from Sharsheret. So they reach out, and then how does that relationship, I guess, begin?
So I know you say Rahman al-Islan. I just want to put it out there that everybody will need Sharsheret in their lifetime. And I can explain after what that is, but it's not only for people who are going through cancer. There are people who are at risk. There are family members. There are friends. So Sharsheret is there for everybody and everyone. But if a woman finds herself that she's diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer or ovarian cancer, she can reach Sharsheret any way that's possible, by telephone, by email, through social media, and live chat on our website. Basically, we try to be wherever you are, so cell phone, texting, however you need to reach Sharsheret, and you will get a live person on the other side. This is not a website. And it's generally, you can speak with a social worker or genetic counselor, and you don't even have to know why you're calling, but you start to tell your story, and we listen very carefully to what you have to say, and we can identify ways to help you manage whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's how do I talk to my children, what questions to ask the doctor, how do I reconcile this question of dealing with religion and spirituality, especially when we're sitting in a shul thinking about it, how do I manage all these different issues? Sharsheret understands what it's like to be going through this, and then we provide this conversation with a social worker or a genetic counselor. And then we also have about 25,000 women who are interested and eager to be a peer supporter, women who have similar diagnoses, similar backgrounds, similar concerns, and we can match them up one-on-one. And then the logistics can happen, like what do you know about this doctor? How do I prepare for surgery? What do I even ask? How do I tell my children of 3 years old, 5 years old, 15-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, how do I tell my mother? Where do I get the support I need? And Sharsheret will be your quarterback and put everything there for you. And you can call as often as you want or as little as you want. It's really customized to the person who's calling Sharsheret.
So I see you corrected my question. So you're saying even preemptively, someone who Baruch Hashem is doing well should still make this connection.
You can. And basically, there will not be someone in their lifetime who will not need Sharsheret. Everyone will need it. Every woman turning 40 will be recommended to get a mammogram. It's a very there's anxiety associated. There are questions that are associated with it. There are families that are riddled with cancer and want to understand what can they do to try to maybe prevent cancer or catch it in its early stages. You can call Sharsheret. You have a friend, a best friend, a colleague. You want to educate the community. You want to bring it to the shul for a Sharsheret Pink Shabbat. There are things that you can do to call Sharsheret. You are schools there. Everyone can benefit from Sharsheret, and we encourage you to call. Again, we can't force anyone to call, but we're here, and we can be approached however is best for you.
Right. It's amazing when, as you describe it, it checks off so many boxes to me. As you can imagine, as Rabbanim, we're also pastors, and we try to coach people through really difficult moments in their lives. I can't tell you how often the word cancer comes up around this desk and in this room. And I think a lot of the things that you're touching on, like having others who have been through it, is a key piece. I think a lot of times people feel like the only person who can understand is someone who's been through it themselves. And the mental health assistance, right? How do I break it to my family members? That's something that I'm also constantly trying to coach people on or put them in touch with mental health professionals and the spiritual guidance too. I wonder, like, you must have, how robust is the staff at Sharsheret? You have mental health professionals. When you talk about spiritual guidance, are there rabbis associated with Sharsheret? How exactly does the structure work?
So we don't ascribe to any specific denomination within the Jewish community.
It's just Jewish in
we
general.
serve the whole spectrum,
Right.
but we have very educated staff that understand where people's perspectives, because we have callers who are from the ultra-Orthodox and Hasidic community, and we have those who are Jewish because they have Jewish blood, they have
Nominally
genetics.
affiliated.
Right, so we're careful not to ascribe to a certain rabbi. We definitely recommend people to speak to their spiritual advisors, but we have resources and we have information to share with people, and we're addressing it from a non-denominational perspective, but we are also we're very sensitive to people's backgrounds, and we're very much educated. So for example, if the classic example is that Rosh Hashanah is coming and you've just been diagnosed with a serious illness and you're about to go into services, shul, davening, tefillah, however you say it, but it focuses on who shall live and who shall die. This is a very daunting experience if you've just been diagnosed with a serious illness. So we will unpack that, for lack of a better word, on how that means to you. If you call a secular organization, they don't have that understanding that holidays could also be challenging, and it's not all about revelry
Or
and
therapeutic.
excitement.
I mean, really,
Yes.
really both sides, yeah.
And we have women that turn to God, and we have guidance on Tehillim groups and things like that that can help the community address it, but we're not doing it from necessarily a religious perspective. And we're not trying to change anyone. When you come to Sharsheret, it's who you are and how we work within that.
Just to support you.
And we encourage, for you guys, we encourage everyone to speak. If they have a rabbi or rab, to also consult with their rab, because there are halachic questions of Jewish law that we are not qualified to answer within communities, but we will get you where you need to go if you want those answers.
Where did the name Sharsheret come from?
So it came to Ruchi in a dream, and she just thought of this concept of a chain, because how one person helps the other person, and she just thought it would be the perfect name. She woke up in the morning and that was the name. It's hard here, it's always misspelled, it's always mispronounced, and it's really hard to understand. If you don't speak Hebrew, Sharsheret doesn't mean anything, and even if you do, it doesn't necessarily connect to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, women, men, families. It doesn't mean anything. But the concept is beautiful, this concept of chain where people connect and everyone becomes a link in a chain. And the way a chain works is that the more links you add, it adds strength, and that's how we see everyone who connects brings, strengthens this chain of support that's helping thousands.
So obviously you've been involved for a while. Is there any, I know it's probably impossible to pick one story that stands out, but just people like stories. So is there any one story that, in particular stands out to you?
So every story, obviously, we're built up of stories, but there is one that very often we get asked, you're a Jewish organization, do you help those who are not Jewish? So the answer is yes, for sure. We help those who are not Jewish, and the person just has to be comfortable that they're coming to an organization where everything, it's screaming Jewish. It's in our tagline, it's in our materials, but it's interesting how those who are not Jewish could feel comfortable. So thinking about that, there's a story, and obviously you go with your most recent, so this happened recently. There was a 43-year-old woman living in Chicago being treated at Northwestern, and Sharsheret partners with the medical community, very often getting referrals from doctors for patients. And so she reached out to Sharsheret and she said, my doctor at Northwestern suggested that I call Sharsheret for support. Just full disclosure, I am Polish and I was raised Catholic. Are you still going to help me? We have an office in Chicago, so our Chicago social worker said, sure, of course, we can help you. And we asked her what her needs were and we're helping her through it. And then she said, sends an email maybe a week later saying, I just did genetic testing because that's part of what happens when you're diagnosed with cancer. They do genetic testing. And she said, and I found out that I have Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry on both my mother and my father's side. And she grew up in Poland. And she said, so I am actually Jewish. And she was so touched by the compassion and the warmth that she received through Sharsheret. She started to look into her Judaism a little bit more. And she stayed in touch with us and continues to stay in touch. And now she
has a son learning in the mirror.
Yes, with Jacob. No, she's actually has embraced Judaism, has started to observe parts of it. She said some of it she's already done, some of it's a little harder, but she's very committed to leading a Jewish life.
Wow.
So that's not our job to necessarily bring people into the fold, but if they are value what we've been offering them and benefit from it, and they find out that they're Jewish and now they can embrace their Judaism, we feel that that's just a tremendously positive outcome of this challenging situation. And she's not public with her story, but I'm dying to share it publicly, with having her promote it. But she's very private, and everything at Sharsheret is confidential and private. But she's
that's incredible.
Yeah, so those are kind of examples of really, it's Orla Goyim in some way, but yes, she is Jewish, and genetic testing is an incredible thing that's going on now, which is finding out that you have this ancestry that you never knew about. The Jewish community, as we know it, could be 10 times the size because of finding out your genetic ancestry. And we're seeing that at Sharsheret as a first point for this because of the genetic testing associated with a cancer diagnosis.
Incredible. Not the story I was expecting. That took a left turn.
I don't know. It's like I have to think of the most, but that to me is
great.
like the most, every story and every woman's story, honestly, is incredibly moving, what people manage and where they come out at the other side. But that one in particular, I think from an organizational perspective and thinking about a shul and how much people get by being in a shul and what they can get from it. And she goes to a shul now. So the whole thing, it just seemed that's what came top of mind.
Wow. I find the cancer world to be one of extremes. It's like it has the most heartbreaking stories and also the most inspiring stories. How do you manage that with your day-to-day, those polar extremes?
So I guess I'm a little bit fortunate. I am not on the calls every day with women, the social workers. We do a lot of peer support for our social workers too. Also, I think they need to learn from each other, and there's a very teamwork positive attitude. But there are days that are hard, but ultimately, Sharsheret's a very happy place to work. Women are doing well. There's optimism, and they very often want to help other women. And I think that concept of being able to help someone even while you're going through it, even what Ruchi had, that's very inspiring. And also seeing women who are 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years out, that's inspiring. So it really is a very happy place, and it takes time to get there, but we do it together.
How is Sharsheret funded?
Okay, so Sharsheret is funded primarily by individual donors. Many shul members are Sharsheret donors, so thank you. Hakarat hatov to you. That's our biggest revenue stream. We also have family foundations. We have corporate support. We partner with pharmaceutical companies that are bringing drugs to market that target breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and BRCA BRCA cancers. So that's a huge revenue stream for us. Pharmaceutical companies have very deep pockets. So we would very much like to continue that to take a little pressure off the Jewish community. And we also have government grants. We have a couple of government grants. But primarily, individuals in the Jewish community have been supporting Sharsheret, and for a long time.
We're going to move from a very serious, heavy topic to some more rapid fire questions, which are a little bit lighter in nature, but to continue to put the spotlight on you on a different angle. So here, we'll get through as many as we can. Are you more of a morning or night person?
Both.
Oh, wow.
I probably don't sleep enough, but I could be up early in the morning. I could be up late at night, but I'm both. Yeah.
At the same time, burn the candle on both ends.
Yes, I try not. I'm trying to hopefully never burn out, but yeah, I could do both.
Lucky.
If you could choose a different field to be in, aside from what you do now, money, not ignoring money as a factor, what field would you go into?
So my true love is marketing. I am dying to be in like a marketing organization. I love to think about what people are really going to listen to and pay attention to. I don't know if I'd be good at it, but I definitely, and every job now has
We're
marketing.
looking for some marketing for CBY Spotlight.
You've given us some advice before.
Yeah, but marketing, and the other thing is, I'd love to be a personal trainer, but I don't know if I want that because I love to work out, but I don't know how to be a trainer, but I would love to do that if I could be trained.
What is your favorite book, movie, or TV series?
Okay, so this is also a really hard one. Like, because I don't, my movies are really not, they're always romantic comedies, so I can't pick one that's appropriate. This is the problem.
We'll take a genre.
Hard question
romantic
to answer
comedy.
two rabbis, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of.
I mean, there was
in
a
that.
book this year that I loved. I think it's called The Laws of Chemistry, but it's not my favorite book of all time. But for this year, that was my favorite book.
Okay. But you're saying not recommended reading for
It's
us.
about chemistry?
There is chemistry in it, but it's about a woman in the 50s who is a chemist, and it talks about...
I think Rena was recently reading this book.
It's probably for this year or the last years, that's been my favorite book. So can we go with that?
If you had to eat one consistent meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Sushi.
I didn't even have to finish the question, and you knew the answer.
Food doesn't matter.
Sushi. You have a particular favorite type of sushi?
No.
All sushi.
Yeah.
Vegetable,
Sushi?
fish, it all works?
That's all, yeah.
I enjoy sushi, but I'm not a sushi enthusiast, I wouldn't say.
That's like, if I go to a simcha, they
You're just hitting the sushi.
and I feel bad because I know it's expensive and it's a little pressure on the
Expensive,
on
but
the
healthy.
host. Yeah, and you can make it healthy. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Next
I don't
time
know
we
how
should
to
bring
make it at
sushi.
home. That's the thing. I don't want to, something
Anything
that
That's
I
a
can
great
make.
call, right? If you're like, I can make like a homemade pizza or anything, that's an
Yeah.
excellent call. Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Or a great piece of advice?
To listen, to not jump in and really just listen to the other people.
That's even as you jumped in on that last question.
I know,
without
this is
it.
my problem. It's the best
Just
piece of
saying.
advice, and I know.
Now you got to follow the
yeah,
advice,
so
right?
best and hardest.
Yeah, that is a valuable
Yeah.
piece of advice, particularly in today's world. What is the most interesting item in your home?
So my house also has very little, like it's kind of like your office,
Wow, I love it.
We're-
This is definitely it.
we don't have a lot of accessories. I'm like,
We just say before the interview, Elana was pointing out how the walls are very
Yeah.
bare. here, and we
Yeah.
have to-
So I'm like you guys. Like I don't have tchotchkes. I don't have piles. I'm not really nostalgic. I have like a big dumper, but there's a picture in my house that my mother gave to me that is black and white, where she was born in 1940. So it's a picture. She's the baby. She's sitting on her mother's lap, and to one side she has her grandmother, and one side she has her great grandmother. And it's 4 women, it's the same gender. And I think growing up, she was always said, if you have a girl, we have to do this 4-generation picture. It doesn't work with your brothers. It's like, this is a girl thing. So my first child was a girl, and my grandmother and my mother were both around.
Wow.
So we set the picture up
modeled it
the
after
same
the
way. And like now I would probably do it much better. It was okay. But now I have it in a cheap plastic frame, but it's side by side, and to me that's probably the most interesting. My mother and my grandmother are not here anymore.
Wow, that's really special.
But it's like my mother was the baby, and it's just so that to me is the most interesting thing in my house.
That's one of the best answers we got for this question. That's beautiful. Finally, if any, has there been any significant hobby or lifestyle change that you took on since COVID? Now it feels like this forever ago. I feel like this is an outdated question, but
Right.
we'll ask it.
So it's actually the craziest question, because I remember my kids moved in with me, some of them. We didn't let my daughter, who's a doctor, she's an anesthesiologist, so it's like, you're not coming over. We couldn't have her bring COVID in.
She was not welcome home.
She was not. It was a terrible, terrible time. She was very insulted. but she's literally on the front lines. No, we weren't bringing her in. So I had some of my other children living with me, and we kept hearing about everybody learning to cook and knit, and I'm like, we were literally doing laundry and cleaning. Like Jonathan was washing the bathrooms. Like it was not a time when we were doing anything. We had a 15-month-old running around. It was crazy. So we didn't know how to.
You were surviving.
Exactly. It was really nice, but we did not come up with anything new or, inspirational. And everybody was working and getting through the days. And so we're just, we're same as we were before, but just a little bit closer. Yeah. Jacob was learning the entire time, we used to say,
sure.
and he's still learning because everybody was in a different room. We could hear him learning all through the house. It was just, for us, it was actually, thank God, nobody got really sick in our house, and we were able to enjoy each other's company, and we feel very fortunate that we got through that episode in a positive way.
Baruch Hashem. You are cousins with the Chesners.
Yes.
What's that relationship?
Vest, the Chesners.
It's another Nation friendly. I'm very close with Josh and Evan.
Right.
So,
and I saw Ariana.
Yes.
I see the Chesners walking up Maitland after the storm sometimes.
they're the best.
You're related to the Chesners through Tammy, right?
Tammy is my husband's sister, and honestly, I have been in this family for 30-something years. Not once has she ever had a negative word to say about anything. She is the nicest person. Danny also, they're the best. They have the nicest children. They were like best friends for Jacob, because I have 3 girls and then Jacob. So they have a boy, Josh, a year older, and Evan, a year younger.
Right.
So for Jacob, those were brothers, and they're in the community. I mean, I didn't grow up with any cousins, so for me, this was like, and for Jacob was just like, my girls loved them too, but he had a very, very special relationship to have such boys close in age, and Tammy and Danny are amazing. And then my in-laws moved here also, probably because of Tammy and Danny. Not when we were here, but when they came. So it's been really very nice to have everyone in the community.
The reason I brought it up, it gives me another opportunity to say I played against Josh and Evan. They were on the same team in the TABC Summer Basketball League, and the Weinbergers had a team in the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
And we came out victorious. So,
oh my gosh, poor Josh and Evan.
Poor Josh and Evan, but also an important step in our
That's why
relationship.
we'h done this whole interview.
Yes.
Sharsheret's
Just to
stuff
get
is just
into it.
background.
That was
That's
just
all he
the
wanted to say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
All right, so we're going to end with, I think an easy silver platter CBY trivia. It's a different style question, okay? I'm going to say 3 skills. Well, I gave one away already. And I want you to match them up to the rabbis, okay? Running, skiing, basketball.
Well, skiing is Rabbi Shire.
Okay.
Running, we know Rabbi Zat, and what basketball is you? Well, clearly.
After that story, I thought that was a
That
good
was
giveaway.
so easy.
Scored like 15 points against the
Okay.
Chesners in the playoffs.
Okay, we still have to decide what the prize is. We're winning
Yeah,
CBY trivia. Nobody's actually won so far.
Yeah,
my
that's the
gosh.
first winner, so
I definitely want to win. Like, I'm in it for the win.
we'll think of something good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Elana, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
joining
guys.
us.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.